Hey everybody, welcome back to Ken Michaels Radio, where we're always talking about the Beatles here, the past, the present, the solo careers, you name it. We always have special guests on the show. And this time out, I thought it would be a great idea to do something for the one-to-one concert because of the big news of everything going on this year, from the one-to-one documentary to the Power to the People box set, which is coming out tomorrow. And I thought I would invite a couple of people onto my channel who were actually there at the concert as fans. And it wasn't too easy to organize this. Sometimes people could cancel out at the last moment or so, but I'm very grateful that I have two people on who were there and they can share that whole experience of what it was like. I was not there. I didn't see any of the Beatles until George in 1974. But we're happy to welcome on our show Joe Raiola, who was just a guest on the Things We Said Today podcast. He has organized all of the John Lennon tribute shows that happen in New York City from the group Theater Within, sometimes close to the anniversary of John's death, not necessarily then, but usually towards the end of the year or maybe John's birthday. Every single year he puts on a stellar show with lots of great guests, and he's doing one this year, which we'll tell you about a little bit later on. But welcome, Joe Raiola.
Thanks, Kent. Great to be with you again. And Mary, nice to
Hey,
meet you.
Joe.
Nice to meet you to talk Lennon and one to one.
Same here.
And Mary Ellen Barbarito is a friend of mine who I met through another Beatle friend of mine. And I see her all the time at the Fest for Beatles Fans. I meet her at all kinds of Beatle events. We just saw a Paul McCartney tribute show in West Haven, Connecticut together. And she was there not only for the evening show, but the afternoon show too. So welcome, Mary Ellen. And Instant Karma, you're a superstar right now.
Thanks, Ken, for having me.
All right, I just want to start by talking about how you both found out about the one-to-one show. Was it through um, the reports on television from Geraldo Rivera, or were there reports on the radio that it was about to happen? Because John and Yoko were like a last-minute thing happening towards the end of the event. So, do you remember how you found out about the one-to-one concerts? Joe, we'll start with you.
Well, I was living on Staten Island at the time. So I my my family, like a lot of Italian families, moved from Brooklyn to Staten Island, actually a little bit before the Verrazano Narrows Bridge went up. For those who don't know, that's the bridge that connects Staten Island to Brooklyn. And Staten Island before then was a very isolated place, very
Hmm.
difficult to get to. It was part of New York City, but there was no bridge that connected it to New York City. And the Willowbrook School, which the one-to-one concert was a benefit for, was on Staten Island. So I probably found out about this through the Geraldo Rivera investigations into Willowbrook. Willowbrook was this institution where these mentally handicapped kids, some adults too, I think, were living in squalor, just in filth and human waste. And it was a real horror show right in my backyard.
Hmm. But you found out about it from Geraldo's report.
Yeah, and this is before John Yoko were involved in a concert or a concert. It was a scandal.
Hmm. And when was it announced that there would be any concert for this?
I don't remember a real big lead time for that. Maybe Mary can chime in on this. I don't remember it being announced 3 or 4 months in advance. I remember this thing coming together pretty quickly.
Hmm.
Um, you know, 4 or 6 weeks out. Memory's a tricky thing. I want to make a disclaimer. I could be wrong. But that's what I remember. And the other thing I think it's noteworthy to say about this, Ken, is that for me anyway, this concert was in the wake of the concert for Bangladesh. It was just a year later.
Right.
So that had kind of set a standard. And that, it was, I think, viewed by many fans at the time. Oh, John was doing his version of that.
Huh. Okay.
His big charity event is now following the Harrison event.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mary Ellen, how do you remember finding out about it?
Okay, well, I also, living in Connecticut, watched ABC News all the time. So, of course, Geraldo's reports were almost on nightly. And they sort of announced it either on a local radio station that tickets were going to go on sale. And of course, at the time, there was no such thing as going on the internet. The local Ticketmaster office was in the Yale Co-op store in New Haven.
Huh.
So my friends and I, as soon as we heard the tickets were going to go on sale, went down to the Yale Co-op. We didn't know what the concert was called. All they said was 1-to-1. So we're
Right.
thinking, oh my God, there's 5 of us. And we can only get one ticket for one person. And then we found out, no, 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 that's the name of the concert. And that's how I found out about the concert and bought the tickets. And then John was the first person. I never got to see the Beatles in concert. So John, and I didn't get to see George at Bangladesh. John was the first quote Beatle that I got to see in concert. So expectations were very high.
Okay. So when was the moment you knew John was going to be a part of this?
Um, Shortly after Geraldo started reporting that John thought this was deplorable, I think they had done a thing in Central Park, and they had done something because the scandal was that some of these people did not deserve to be institutionalized,
Hmm.
and they had special needs, and they had done a thing in Central Park, and then they said John got on board and said we're going to do a concert. So it was fairly it all happened fairly quickly. There wasn't anything to really plan for it. It was just like hit the ground running.
Okay. And
Ken, just so you know, Ken, I don't remember a concert being announced without John in it. I don't remember a one-to-one concert
I agree. Yeah,
hearing
it
it.
was John and Yoko. Yeah.
I don't even remember if in advance, I don't, again, memory, I don't remember if I knew that Stevie Wonder and Roberta Flack and Sha Na Na were on the bill. Those were the opening acts in that order.
right,
Um, and Stevie, I do remember, performed Superstition,
right.
which and talk. This was pre-Talking Book. The album was not out yet.
Okay. Well, it just so happens when we had Gary Van Syok on Talk More Talk, I was talking about the opening acts and that nobody ever talks about them. And and I didn't know. I've always been curious as to what those opening acts played. And one of our viewers of the show, named Richard Stevens, thank you, Richard, for writing in, actually has a bootleg with a listing of songs that were performed. He's not sure if they were complete, but I can just read these real fast to you. For Shana Na, they played Sea Cruise, Yakety Yak, Tears on My Pillow, Tell Laura I Love Her, Rock and Roll is Here to Stay, and Rama Lama Ding Dong. Stevie Wonder did Superwoman, Superstition, and Keep on Running. And Roberta Flack performed Reverently and Somewhere. Again, he's not sure if that's everything. And I know from another friend of mine who I was hoping to have on the show tonight, he also went to the afternoon and evening show, and he said Roberta Flack was not there for the afternoon show.
No, she wasn't. She was just there for the evening show.
Right. And Gary had said that he seemed to remember that Elephant's Memory did a set. So I'm thinking maybe Elephant's Memory did a set for the afternoon, but not the evening.
Definitely not the evening. I can tell you that. There was no elephant memory set unless my brain is completely rotted out.
No, I think you're right. I don't remember that either. I do remember them playing in the afternoon, but not in the evening.
Elephant's Memory doing a set?
Doing a few songs, yes,
Okay, so it
in the
had to be the
afternoon.
afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Because no, I heard there were three opening acts for each show, but they weren't exactly the same. So how were those opening acts received? By the way, I should point out something here, Joe, because a lot of information I get from my wife, who was there, who refuses to go on camera for this show. Thank you, Joanne. But she seemed to remember that John and Yoko were a last minute addition. So I would think, like you, Joe, or anybody else, if Stevie Wonder was going to be there, you'd know about it. He was
But here's what I would say to your wife, with all due respect to your wife. Stevie Wonder couldn't sell out Madison Square Garden then. Talking Book wasn't even
I know.
out. You
He
could
was
never build a show around Stevie Wonder or Roberta Flack. Maybe the first time you ever, this was a John and Yoko show. This was billed as a John show.
okay.
You couldn't.
No, you're right. But I also think that because of, Stevie Wonder had been around since 1963, so many people would have known who he was
He
that
may have
would
been
have a
billed.
lot of attention just because of his whole, back catalog at that point. He wasn't talking book on 70s, this masterful, absolute genius. He was still a genius even early on. I
Sure.
love Stevie. But, I would have thought if Stevie Wonder was there, everybody would have heard about that first
It's,
if he was
it's
announced.
possible that he was. I'm only saying that John and Yoko were always involved
Okay.
in it. I don't think there was any promo for this show without John and Yoko as part of it.
Okay. Well, what do you remember about the opening acts? Were they well received, or was everybody just waiting for John and Yoko?
Sha Na Na were a giant hit in the evening show. I don't know. Do you remember it that way,
Yeah,
Mary?
they were a big hit. Um,
So much
I
fun.
I could say that when Roberta Flack came on, because we were all relatively young and had curfews, that was the time we all left to make a payphone call to our parents saying, "We're not going to come home because John hasn't come on yet. And can we please stay to see the end of the concert?" And I was like, "I don't care if you ground me for the rest of my life. I'm staying there to see the concert." And so I didn't see a lot of Roberta Flack because that was crazy. She was on towards the end. And of course,
She,
she was probably tied in because she was one of John's neighbors at the Dakota.
yeah, she only did a few songs.
Yeah. Oh, but they seemed like they went on forever at night.
Well, this was 72, and I thought that John and Yoko didn't move to the Dakota till 73.
Oh, that's right. That's true. That's
So,
true.
yeah, but they became really good friends.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. And so you heard Superstition before it was even a hit.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was a single yet. I mean, the album Talking Book came out in the fall.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure when Superstition was released. Again, memory, I can't tell you if that was the first time we heard it or not, but it was, and that exists on YouTube, by the way. You can see Stevie from that show
Okay.
um, doing Superstition, which is pretty damn cool.
Right. By the way, I just want to mention this is for all the younger people watching. If you don't know who Shana Na is, were they were a group, fantastic group that performed 50s rock and roll, and there was a big revival of 50s music in the 70s. I'm sure helped quite a lot by Shana Na. They had their own TV show. They were really popular, and they also had songs in the soundtrack of Grease. Um, when
What
the
was their TV show?
they had what's that?
What was their TV show? Because I don't
Their
remember
own
that.
variety show, which I
Yeah.
vaguely remember.
Yeah, they would have a few guests, but it was mostly them. They were quite popular.
They were very campy,
Yep.
Yeah.
but they were masters at doo-wop.
Right.
They really had that street corner sound down.
Yeah. And you've probably seen Bowser, who is like the leader of the group. And you do see Bowser at the very end of the concert when they're singing Give Peace a Chance. He always wore a sleeveless shirt and he makes a muscle, like this.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
he would always say, Grease for peace, And Bowser is one of these guys who give him a lot of credit. He's put on all these oldie shows through the years, every year at Mohegan Sun in
Yep.
Connecticut. And it's
Absolutely.
all these acts from the 50s and 60s and sometimes the 70s, and they're great revival shows. So you watch all these PBS specials with music from the 50s or 60s or 70s. That's what Bowser's been doing for a long time, and he just stopped doing it. Um, but yeah, they really helped to bring back the whole 50s craze
Hmm.
which there was in the 70s. So the crowd, they were receptive to these three artists, these three opening acts, or they were kind of lukewarm to them. What would you say?
I would say Sha Na Na, a wildly enthusiastic response. I remember that palpably.
Yeah.
And I don't remember much about the response to Roberta.
Hmm.
Stevie, a warm response to Stevie. Everyone loves Stevie, you know. Anyway, that's how I remember it. Mary, anything your
Yeah,
recollection
I think
is
so.
different?
I don't think Roberta Flack was received as enthusiastically as Shannon and Stevie Wonder. I think I hate to say it, it was sort of like people took that opportunity to take a break, use the restroom, do
Hmm.
whatever. At least where I was sitting, which was up in the nosebleed seats.
Yeah.
Also in retrospect, would have been better to put Roberta before Sha Na Na.
Yeah,
They are a tough
exactly.
act to follow.
Yeah. And her music was more subdued and melodic and slow. So people were starting to get revved up. They just wanted to see John.
Right. I was kind of wondering about that because she has such a beautiful voice.
Oh,
But,
absolutely.
you think of the first time ever I saw your face, and it's
Hmm.
like, can that really resonate in Madison Square Garden? Such a quiet song like that, you know? By the way, we have another special guest to welcome into the show here. Let's see if he's coming up. I hope he is. Is he? I'm not seeing him. I guess he's not coming on here. All right, here we go.
Hello?
That sounds like Mark Lapidos.
Hello?
I hear you. Can you hear us?
I hear you. I see all three of you. There I am.
There you are.
Hey, Mark.
Okay.
Hey,
How,
how is everybody?
how are you,
Everyone?
Mark? Good to see
Good.
you.
Hey, Joe.
What a
I,
surprise.
I thought you were always busy. What are you doing here?
I was invited.
Really? Wow.
Yes. I was fortunate enough when we were doing our show on Things We Said Today to read an article that Joe wrote, and in it he said that he was at the one-to-one concert. So I thought, oh, got to invite him for this. And so
Aha.
Mark is now joining us. Of course, he's organized the Fest for Beatle fans every year since 1974. Except during COVID, there was a few moments there when we couldn't have some shows.
Right, right.
Put them on in New York, New Jersey, Chicago, sometimes LA.
25 years in LA. But yeah.
Wow.
Houston, Dallas, Boston, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Orlando, and San Francisco and Seattle.
You got to
Besides,
make that a trivia question one of these days. You got to name all the cities that.
no, even I have trouble, but I can do them.
So we've been talking about the one-to-one concert and how we found out about the one-to-one show. And of course, a lot of that came from Geraldo Rivera's report on ABC. But I've also wanted to clear up because of my wife's memory about the opening acts for the shows, and that she told me she thought that John and Yoko were a last minute arrangement for the show. And you didn't hear anything about those acts before that?
No, no, I had no idea. I don't even remember who was on first anyway. I just remembered John was on stage for the concert. It was his concert. They asked him and he did the promotion for it.
Okay. Well, we've also heard all the promos he made for the radio, which
Hmm.
were great with Elephant's Memory.
I guess
But
that's how I heard about it. I'm guessing. And where
yeah,
did I get my ticket? Probably Bamberger's Ticketron, as
and
he said in the commercials.
you can actually see Mark in the video for the one.
Yes, with the tambourine.
That's right. That's right. And when Yoko in '84 when they were getting ready to release the concert for the first time
Mhm.
publicly, the video, uh, Yoko and her staff were watching, and now you all get your tambourines, and there's me, and
Right.
Yoko said, "Hey, there's Mark Lapidos in there."
Uh-huh.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Now, you told me last night there was a listening party for
Two
the
nights. Was it
Power
last night or 2 nights ago? It was 2 nights
nights
ago.
ago.
Right.
It's
You see
all a
that?
blur the last few days for me. This box set's coming out tomorrow. We got
Yep.
to see a wonderful 1 hour video with some of the live footage from the one-to-one concert and some of the audio that you can find in the Power to the People box set from outtakes from the Sometime in New York City sessions and also from the Clock video, which has been bootlegged for years. And so you told me that you're in the one-to-one concert 4 times.
The one they showed the other night, yeah. I saw me twice. Carol saw me 4 times. They were quick, the new edits.
Okay.
So, but I
You'll
was
have to tell me the exact seconds when they appear.
there. No, but I think Carol had a camera ready, her phone on, so she could catch the point. And she caught him. But I saw me twice, and Carol says 4 times. I believe her. She looks back quicker than I can.
Hmm. So tell me how you think John's music, first of all, was received by the public, because at that time he was more political than ever. The Sometime in New York City album wasn't received very well. It did poorly in sales. A lot of people didn't want to relate so much to John going so political, heavily political.
Hmm.
Were those songs received well? I'm sure that the hits, the Imagines and Instant Karmas, those were received very well. I mean, I could hear the applause in the audience when I listened to the audio or watched the video. But from what you observed, because that was that heavy time for him to write all these songs on Sometime in New York City, how do you think the audience reacted to that? Do you think that they were warm to it, or were they waiting for hits and Beatles?
Um, you were going back 50, how many? 53
53.
years,
Yeah.
right? 72. Yes, 53 years. It's a lot to remember all these things.
Mm.
Um, I remember just enjoying the show. For me personally, I wasn't thinking about when are they going to play the hits. Whatever he was playing, that was fine with me. I mean, I had the albums, the latest ones, so any songs he was doing, I knew, of course. Um, but watching the film the other night, he was in such what I didn't notice on the stage 53 years ago was he was in such control of his vocals. His vocals were spot on
Mm.
the whole night. You think of the Beatle days. Well, Paul always sang on key, and John clowned around sometimes. And uh, I mean, he had a great voice, but you didn't always know what to expect because it wasn't always on because that was the way John was. Paul was not like that, right? Paul was the perfectionist. But here at the concert that his name was on, he seemed to be like a perfectionist. I just came up with. I just thought of that. But his voice was in great shape. His playing was in great shape. He was relaxed. You would think he'd be nervous.
Hmm.
I didn't catch that watching this film. We hadn't seen it this clean,
Right.
and there were lots of footage that was never used, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
Um, but the audience, when the other song, yeah, it's always like that. When people play new song, any artist play new songs that the people haven't heard, they go out to get a drink or go to the bathroom.
Hmm.
Some people just want to hear the hits. There's a friend of mine. If they don't play all the hits, he leaves. He and his wife just leave. Um, but I'm open when I'm there. I'm listening to what they want to do, and I loved it. It was terrific.
Yeah, well, with someone like me, you couldn't get me out of my seat. I'd be glued for every single song.
Yeah.
It's kind of ironic. I've heard this music so many times. I've heard the live concert so many times, but you learn so much from watching this in the new mix and how remastered it was, how great he really sounded.
Yes. I'd never heard him sound that great,
Yeah,
and I didn't know that he rented out the Phil Maurice for 2 weeks to rehearse, but he did.
yeah.
I guess he wanted it to get it right.
Hmm. And the whole band, Elephant's Memory, sounded fantastic.
He did. Yeah. And Yoko sounded great too.
Yeah,
Sean put a bunch of her songs on there too. And I'm glad she did, and he did, and I knew he would, right? There's no question.
yeah. Well, he tried to make it as complete as possible.
Yes.
Had to omit one particular song. Um,
What
we
did he omit?
really have to get into that. If it's important to you, you can. But if you do, just make sure that you say N and not the word.
Oh, that.
You. Okay? But
I
we'll
mean, Kent, you asked how people responded to his political songs.
yeah.
Remember, John only sang two songs from Sometime in New York City in that show.
Hmm.
One of them was Sometime in New York City, which is not really all that. It
New
does
York.
have a political message in some ways, but it's so fun. The only other song from the album that John sang is the one that's not on the album.
Right.
So the album for John's stuff wasn't particularly well represented. He didn't sing Angela. He didn't sing John Sinclair. He
Hmm.
didn't sing Luck of the Irish. He didn't sing Atticus State. None of that stuff was there. And the Yoko stuff, I'm being honest, nobody wanted to hear then. Nobody. At the time, um, it was, John and Yoko were a package deal. That's just the way it was. That's why John wasn't at the concert for Bangladesh because George didn't invite Yoko to be part of it.
Right.
Well, this was John's show, and him and Yoko at the time, of course, were utterly inseparable. But I would say it was the audience was. I say this with all respect to Yoko, who I'm a big fan of and have great affection for. Nobody wanted to hear Yoko there. Everybody wanted to hear John. And it was partly because every moment on stage given to Yoko was felt like a moment that the audience wasn't getting with John. So there was that tension. I think John and Yoko were aware of that as well.
Hmm.
Um, and as I said to you before we started, although this is called John's only concert, he only sang 9 songs, I think. It wasn't like a McCartney show with, modern day McCartney show with 35 songs. You
Right.
know, it was like nine tracks.
That's all it was? I don't.
Yeah, and they list Power to the People. They didn't sing Power to the People. They opened up with chanting Power to the People and went directly into New York City.
Funny.
So I remember when my response to the show was I was so thrilled I was there and I loved seeing John. I remember feeling disappointed that there wasn't more of him. Um, so
Well,
So
Well,
that,
actually,
you know,
before we started recording the show, you and I were talking about this, and I had brought up, um, George's tour of '74, and if you subtract Billy Preston and Tom Scott and Ravi Shankar, and you just focus on the songs that George did, there's maybe an hour's worth of music.
Well, concerts were much shorter then. They used to have
Mhm.
opening acts stretch it out to 2 hours or 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Right.
The headliner didn't do 2 hours. They did less.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think McCartney is an anomaly. You don't find people like Paul that will stay on for so long. And now we've sort of expected that. But back in the day, you were happy to get anything you got from the headliner. So if it was five
Yeah.
songs, it was like 3 hours
Mm-hmm.
in your
Yeah,
mind.
the Wings Over America concert was probably 2+ hours. It's a
Hmm.
long show. Paul did
It was, yeah.
five,
Two and a
Paul
half.
did five Beatles songs in that concert. You've got a lot of Paul. Now, you didn't get much from a lot of the early albums. He didn't do anything from Ram. He's only doing, I think, only Maybe I'm Amazed from McCartney, nothing from Wildlife. From
Hmm.
Red Rose Speedway, all you got was My Love. It was very heavy on Band on the Run and Venus and Mars, but you got a lot of Paul.
Yeah.
It was a small dose of John, relatively, and particularly, I'm going to say relative to the whole evening. If you want to think it was like probably a 3 hour evening with Sha Na Na and Roberta and
Hmm.
Stevie and Yoko. John was, in that sense, a, a meaningful, obviously the meaningful part of the evening, but relatively not giant part. It wasn't a half John concert and the rest everyone else. It was nine John songs, including "Give Peace a Chance," in which they didn't sing the song. They just sang the "Give Peace a Chance."
Right.
So,
But
John,
John was on stage for Yoko songs too, so he was still there.
true, true.
And he was playing some real good guitar too. He
Yes,
was,
it was.
Yeah. Did you, Mark and Mary Ellen, did you experience people not really wanting to hear Yoko at that point?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think there were people that were like, when is she going to get off? Uh, they really didn't appreciate her artistry or what she was trying to say.
Right.
I think, they did treat her like this is a package deal. So people were less enthusiastic. I think years on, then people started to realize what she was really trying to say and communicate as a not just as a performer but also as an artist.
yeah, I think it's hard to remember exactly what I was thinking, but I think my impression was it's John's wife and he wants her on there. And it's John. We're seeing John anyway. Let's give it a chance.
Hmm.
Wasn't like a Yoko hater. I didn't.
Yeah.
Later on, we got to know her very well, and
Right.
she's a lovely, lovely woman.
I mean, and I would say this that I think that it's just my take on this. I think John and Yoko as a team on stage singing songs, they were still learning what their partnership was there. By the time
Mhm.
Double Fantasy came around, it was a completely different sound and feel in terms of the way they were meshing, how they were picking up on each other, just the quality of the production and the songs. Think about how Double Fantasy sounds.
Yeah,
Certainly,
they were really in sync with each other. Absolutely.
But also live because sometime in New York City and the music with Elephant's Memory was so raw and not really produced. It didn't have a slick sound, if you want to call Double Fantasy slick. Um, what they did on stage at 1-to-1 was perfect and it gelled John and
Yeah,
Yoko. She was perfect for that band in the background to sing and do her songs and to do her screaming, her vocalizations, which sometimes, I never realized it till many years ago, but sometimes what she would be doing on stage is no different than what a guitar player would be doing when they're doing solos. It's just that it's
Right.
vocals. You're not used to hearing it that way.
But
And
she
she
didn't, but
also
she,
she
I'm
also
sorry,
sings
Mark.
on key. She when she's singing, it's not like she's flat or sharp. She's
Right.
singing pretty much right on key. So she is a singer. She can
Right.
sing.
She didn't do any of that screaming at the one-to-one show. None of it. None of the stuff that, like on Plastic Ono Band, like Why or Why Not or Don't Worry, Kyoto, that's screaming, wailing, Yoko. None of that at
I
the one.
thought there was a little bit of it.
Well, don't worry, Kyoko. She does some of that.
She,
Yeah.
but that's not wasn't played.
Which was a song that they played.
She was doing songs like Sister Oh Sister
Right.
and We Are All Water. I don't have the track list in front of me, but
So
she
there were no
wasn't.
scream. There were no places for the screaming.
I don't remember any wailing Yoko
So that was probably on purpose.
at that show.
There's We're All Water, Born in a Prison,
Born in the Prison, that's from sometime in New York City.
right? Move On Fast.
Now, I'm not remembering that. What is Move On Fast?
It's an up-tempo rocker. It's very punkish.
From where? Was that on an album?
Yeah, that's on which one? I'm not sure if it's Fly or her Plastic Ono Band. One of those. It's an earlier one before approximately Infinite Universe. Um, yeah, I mean, she's rocking, she's holding on to notes, but she's holding on to them for long periods of time. And some people who are not accustomed to her voice might consider that
Mhm.
screaming.
And John was very sheepish about the Beatles stuff. I mean, he introduces "Come Together" by saying, "Here's a song from the Rolling Stones.
Uh-huh.
Here's a song from that band I used to be into, the Rolling Stones."
Well,
Well, Gary Van Sayek has always told me the band wanted him to do more Beatles, but he would only consent to doing one, and that was it. But do you think that because he was harassed by the Nixon administration so much that he tried to tone things down in this concert when it comes to politics? Because you also have to include, like you just mentioned, Sisters Oh Sisters and Born in a Prison and We're All Water, you know, those songs were included in the concert.
I
So,
don't I don't think he thought about that. In 72, I mean, it hadn't heated up that much in 72, if I remember correctly. He they tried to, the lawsuits were going on and trying to get him out was maybe a little later than that, 73, 74. Maybe it started in 72, but I
well,
don't think John gave that thought of what songs to do based on Nixon.
well, Gary has said that the reason why, well, they plan to do a tour, and the one-to-one concert was supposed to be the start of it. But that got canceled because he probably felt he had to really tone things down.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, Mark. It was August 72. That was just a couple of months before the presidential election.
Hmm.
Right.
So
Mhm.
that was the whole era in which this idea was floated that John and Yoko were going to go on tour with the Yippies and
Right. Yeah.
to
Mhm.
campaign against Nixon, and that had to have been on his radar then.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It was right before then.
Yeah.
So I will tell you, I don't know that I don't remember seeing this as we talked about memory is a funny thing, but
Mhm.
there's a great moment in Come Together when John, I think the second time it comes around, he sings "Come Together Over You,"
Hmm.
and then he turns And as an aside, he says it would be nice for a change.
Yeah.
It's a great moment.
I think he probably thought it up right at the spot, right on the spot. I don't think he planned it ahead of time
Probably not.
because his brain worked like that, where he could just come up with things.
And I'm also thinking the Rolling Stone quip may not have been with before Come Together. It may have been before Mother. He may have said, "Here's a song I've written since I left my former group, the Rolling Stones."
Right.
He may have been there.
Well,
Yeah.
John liked to joke on stage, so anything like that doesn't really surprise me. But when I think about that particular year in 72 and late 71, so many songs like Attica State and Woman is the End of the World, many of these songs were done on television. So I'm kind of curious, and the next time that I speak with Gary and we're supposed to have him on Things We Said Today, I'd love to know how they picked these particular songs, why they left out Attica
Mhm.
State, why they left out John Sinclair.
My guess is
What
John picked it. I would think John picked the songs. He may have asked the other guys, "Yeah, any other songs you can think of that we should do?" But I think John was had control of that.
There is a widely bootlegged, I don't know if it's on the box set, a rehearsal of Working Class Hero that didn't make it into the show.
I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
not. I just got the box set and I'm going to be digging into it starting tomorrow.
It's a great version too.
Hmm.
That
That would
It's
have been great, but maybe he felt um, restricted to do that. I don't know. It's
that
just
would be
it's not a band song.
no, that would be a question I would ask if I would have had to ask Gary. I'd ask him about that. Why didn't Working Class Hero, which was rehearsed, not make it into the show?
But what would they have done with the song? To put a background in it or just have John on guitar?
They did a complete. I'll send it to you afterwards.
do that as
Oh,
a full band arrangement.
They did an electrified version, very different than the studio
and maybe
version of
John
it.
felt uncomfortable with that. Maybe.
Maybe. I
Yeah.
mean, I believe John performed two songs from Plastic Ono Band, two from Imagine, two from Sometime in New York City,
And come together. That's seven.
Together.
Instant Karma,
Eight.
Instant Karma, Cold Turkey,
Oh, and give peace a
and
chance. Did he
come together.
give
And
peace a chance? Did he do that?
Dakota at the end.
The end, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's a whole set of songs for 1972. That's what they were.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you see a 2 hour concert, say, "What? Come on, let's go. Let's go. Where's the three encores?" Ringo only does an hour 45, hour 50.
Who's us?
Ringo,
Yeah.
he actually shortened the show this year because he
You
was on
know,
stage more.
but with all due respect to Ringo, wouldn't want Ringo for the McCartney length.
No, no, this his show is a different kind of show. Or
It's
we
a
could
perfect.
listen to him for 8 hours, and not hit a dud. But
Paul's
he,
on stage for 3 hours these
that's
days.
right.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, without a break, pretty much.
He's a marvel
He
when he
is.
gets going.
Are you gonna go see him this year? We have to travel. I'm thinking of Chicago if we do it.
Maybe Chicago. There are certain venues where the price went down because scalpers got them instantly, and the prices were outrageous, sometimes being $1,000 or more. And you
Yeah.
could spend many hundreds of dollars for nosebleed seats, but a lot of those tickets didn't sell. So
Oh,
if
they
you,
get it at the last minute. If you're willing to wait for the last minute, you live in that city, you could probably get them for cheap.
that's right. But even if you don't live in that city, even if you got them cheap, then you got to get airfare, which won't be cheap if you need it immediately.
Right,
Won't get
exactly.
good deals. So, and you'll need a hotel. So it can be really expensive. my fear is, if I go to one of these shows, what if Paul starts adding New York? After all that.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I'd
I
like to
don't
come
think he's
back.
going to. I
no,
hope he does, but I think he announced the whole tour. He had that one date they probably didn't finish negotiating the contract because it was like a 5 day open thing near Texas, so
You
they
know,
right.
wasn't ready.
I'd like to come back to one more thing on the one-to-one show. I think if you read Gruen book about the New York years, because Bob was there that night as well.
Right.
Bob writes pretty vividly about how down John and Yoko were after that show. It was not received well. It was not received well by the press, and it was a palpable thing that fans did not want to sit through Yoko. It was palpable. They both felt it. The fan base was not ready for John and Yoko. Now, it may have been a mix. It may have been a mix of that and the nature of the material or the amount of stage time given to Yoko. Maybe she was given a song or two, but she was not. She was given almost as much song time as John. It didn't go down well, and they both knew it. And it was a very difficult time for them. They were coming into the election, which
Hmm.
was devastating. And Bob Gruen tells the story about what happened that night, which was not pretty at all. And John and Yoko split not long after that.
Yeah.
It was you know, it's interesting to look at the one-to-one concert as as a kind of pivotal point and bookended by the Elton John show. The next time John was back at MSG after he had been through the so-called lost weekend with May Pang and then returned to New York. And I'll just say, for me as a fan, what a difference. John with Elton's band? Wow. Wow. Luminous,
Hmm.
clean.
That's the only
I,
show I missed with a Beatle in New York ever.
you,
Yeah, me too.
El-
the thing about
I had met Elton John uh, in August of '74, a month before the fest. He
Uh-huh.
and Tony King came over. They took the QE2, I think it was the first voyage.
yeah,
And so Tony said, "Why don't you come up to the hotel, same hotel that I met John in at the pier after work?" I worked at Sam Goody, it was like 5, 6 blocks away. So I went up there and I ring the bell and Tony opens the door and Elton John's sitting there on the couch with at least 100 cassettes. He's a collector. And I talked to him like an hour and a half I was there and talked mostly about music with him rather than with Tony about the show. Of course, I talked to him about the show. But the first thing I said to Elton was, uh, is You're So Static going to be the next single from Caribou?
Uh-huh.
He said, that's the one I wanted, but Bitches Back started playing in Detroit and it jumped out and I couldn't stop it.
Wow.
And then the next day, I told him where I worked at Sam Goody. And the next day, I had to be in the warehouse for some godforsaken reason. And Elton John walks into the store with Tony, goes up to the other manager and says, "Is Mark Lapidos here?" So he walked in and asked for me by name. And I got the whole story when I came back. All the employees were going nuts. And he was helping customers buying singles. This one girl was looking for a single, and Elton was shopping. He bought a ton of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And can I help you? And she said, yeah, I'm looking for this record. And he found it for her. She didn't look up and see who was talking, right? It was a salesperson. So she pays her 89 cents, whatever. And as she's going out, the manager says, did you see who was helping you? She says, no. So she turns. He said on his big scream, and I missed all of that. I was not happy about that. But he did invite me to the show. We're going to be there Thanksgiving at the Garden,
Uh-huh.
and we'll get you tickets. And the name Connie Pappas, I'll never forget. She was his assistant, and she never returned my phone calls. And I didn't. It's the only show I ever missed. And I said to myself during Thanksgiving, I said, John's going to show up for that. I feel it in my bones, and I wasn't there. Then I should have been there. But
Yeah.
Connie Pappas, if you're still around, I'm still angry that 50 years later. It's
Yeah,
true.
but you still spent an hour with Elton talking to him.
Yes, yes, that was amazing.
That away from you.
It was more than an hour, but it was just terrific. It was just talking music and lots of things. I didn't have a tape recorder where I could put my phone on and listen to the whole thing, right?
Uh-huh.
But it was the sense. It was very warm, nice. And Tony was nice too.
Right. I remember hearing, Joe, what you said about the public that they got bad reviews for the one-to-one concert, and that put a strain on their relationship, John and Yoko. But what did you think of the one-to-one documentary that came out earlier this year? Mary Ellen?
I actually still haven't had a chance to see it.
Oh, okay.
So I can't comment on it. I can only comment on the hour special they did way back in the day, which was very short.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm looking forward to seeing that, to purchasing it.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater. Made it a point to go out and see it. Um, it's misnamed in a way because it's not really much about the one-to-one concert. There's a little bit of the one-to-one show in it.
Hmm.
Um, but for me, we were talking about this earlier. The revelation for me, and I knew about this, but I just think that this documentary with the Freedom of Information Act, that they got these phone recordings,
Yeah.
that the FBI was tapping John's phone, and you hear all these conversations. It's just a couple of things are clear. One, it's very clear how enthusiastic John was at first about going on tour. And he had this fantasy of Bob Dylan was going to go out there with him. And he wanted that. He wanted to, go out and do these shows around the country and raise money to bail people out of prison. And that's clear. You hear John talking about it in his own voice. Of
Hmm.
course, Dylan, that would have been the last thing Bob Dylan would have done at that time, certainly. And the other thing about it that's really clear is that John soured on this. He soured on these guys. It became clear to him, even if he couldn't articulate it fully at the time, that he was being used, and that Jerry Rubin and Abby Hoffman weren't peaceful guys. They were revolutionaries,
Hmm.
and John didn't want to be one of them.
Right.
He did not. That was not where he was coming from.
Right.
Bob Gruen said it well. John and Yoko didn't think of themselves as anti-war. They thought of themselves as promoting peace and escaping the clutches of these fanatical left wingers was an important part of John's journey. That isn't to say he didn't believe in those things that he wrote about. He clearly did. But these guys were not John's friends. And he had to escape them.
And he did.
And he did. And then he had to
Yeah.
go through a dark time still after that to find himself. But these guys were not looking out for John's well-being.
Hanger-oners. They wanted to attach themselves to John Lennon, a Beatle.
Yeah, they were using him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And also there was this idea, because the John Sinclair rally in Michigan had been so wildly successful, because John Sinclair was sprung out of prison like within 72 hours after that,
Hmm.
and everyone's spirits were high. They gave him 10 for 2, and John and Yoko helped bust him out of prison. Their spirits, probably they thought that they could do more than they actually could in
Right.
terms of having that kind of impact. Yeah, that worked out beyond anyone's wildest dreams. But it didn't mean they had the power to end the war or stop Nixon. I mean, remember what happened that year? Nixon won 49 states. Nixon won every state except Massachusetts.
And yet he was still worried about John and Yoko.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I guess I'm saying this not to sugarcoat this period. This was a difficult, difficult period. And I don't, and there are parts of Sometime in New York City I adore, no, nothing more than the band song. But there's not a John Lennon fan who would pick that as John's favorite work. It was a eclectic and highly stylized, and an Elephant's Memory. They were a street band. They were kind of revolutionary. They had a unique sound that was wonderful for what John and Yoko were doing then. But those guys weren't on John's level as a musician.
Not at all, no.
I mean,
Right.
that's, to me, that was the revelation when you hear him with Elton's band. It's like, oh yeah, listen to that.
Hmm.
It's a night and day thing. With all respect to Elephant's Memory, all of whom are very talented guys, but let's face it, they're not on John's level.
Well,
I would say. I'm saying this as a fan. I don't mean to be a critic. I'm just giving you my take on it. They're wonderful for what John was doing then. Perfect for that
Right. I was
revolutionary
going to ask you, Joe,
street.
did you think about it at the time that, hey, this band is not so good, but John is great?
No, but
No, I didn't think about that.
but I didn't like that stuff as much as Imagine or Plastic Ono Band.
Well, because they were better albums.
My point exactly.
Right.
well, everyone's got different tastes here. And
Yeah, I'm just giving you mine.
there are people that love Sometime in New York City in that era who love John when he's rocking out, raw, passionate, and the people that love Plastic Ono Band as an album. To some people, that's the real John, not the one that tried to, as he would say about the Imagine album, sugarcoat it.
Yeah, that was a white album.
So to each his own. There are people who prefer that.
Where do you rate it? I mean, where do you look at Sometime in New York City and John's catalog? Where would you place it?
Towards the bottom, but higher than rock and roll. And if some of the songs on Milk and Honey were finished, I'd probably rate that equal with Sometime in New York City, but it would be towards the bottom. But that's also because there are albums from John that a lot of people don't rate highly, like Mind Games, which I think is so, you know, underappreciated. But
Yeah,
I think it's becoming more appreciated with certain things like the Mind Games box set. But for me, my favorite period of John is Mind Games and Walls and Bridges. I love that whole period there. I love all the music on both those albums. Maybe it's because I'm a little overdosed on Imagine, and Plastic Ono Band is an album that I have to be in the mood to listen to, but I can appreciate artistically how great it is. I love the fun that he had on rock and roll, but it's not the same thing as an album of original songs. And the songs that he wrote on Double Fantasy are amongst his best. Watching the Wheels and Woman are two of the greatest songs of his solo career, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah,
But, there are times when I want to
Beautiful
hear Woman
Woman.
is the end of the.
Mhm.
I love that song. That's a song that I appreciate so much more now than I ever did.
me
Which song?
too.
I was talking. Which song did you mention?
Woman is the end of the world.
Oh,
I love John's vocals. I love the sax playing on that song,
Yeah,
which
that's
really
great.
drives the song.
It's the best track on the album, I think.
and he released it wasn't it a single?
That was
It
the
was.
second.
They put it out as a single, didn't they?
It was.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
One of the members of Elephant's Memory, it might have been Tex Gabriel, said that song's not going to be a hit. You're going to kill the album if you make that the single. And it didn't even make the top 40.
But
And
there was no single on that album. Attica State or Attica State. I mean, maybe What would be the single?
You don't think New York
Sometimes
City could have been a single?
maybe,
Yeah, that'd be about the
maybe
that
that would
would
be
be
about your only
I'd have
shot.
to, wasn't that like a 5 minute song or something? I
It's
forgot.
long.
Yeah, they can cut
Yeah.
it down,
Yeah, they can cut
but
it down.
it's a great rocker. It's in
That
the
that
very
that
vein.
that would have been the only shot, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot about the documentary that I liked a lot, and you nailed it, Joe, when you said there isn't enough about the one-to-one concert, but they never explained why it was even called one-to-one. You
I
know?
believe, I believe it spoke to one care, that each person would receive care,
Right,
one person, because it was so understaffed at Willowbrook that they were trying to bring attention to each person needing to get cared for in the proper manner.
right. I understand that, but a lot of young people who are seeing this for the first time wouldn't know that. That should have been brought out a little bit more. But to recreate the apartment that they had at Bank Street was phenomenal. You know, uh, certain people have told me it looked so much just like that. And to hear all those conversations, to have Alan Klein on the phone. I never
Yeah.
heard Alan Klein's voice before until I heard it in
I
this.
had met him a number of times. So
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
the character, yeah.
yeah.
Bill's
And
office was like 2 blocks from Sam Goody, so
he was there 2 blocks away.
his office is something very close. I forgot which building it was in, but no, it was 1700 Broadway.
1700 Broadway,
Yeah,
that was his
that's one
office. Yeah.
block over. I was on
No
Sixth, on
kidding.
Seventh.
That's the office of Mad magazine for many years. When we moved from 485 Madison, Mad was at, I used to work at Mad. Anybody listening? I was an editor at Mad.
Really? I didn't
Yeah,
know.
and that was our office
Oh,
at 1700 Broadway. So who
So,
knew?
at any time, did you run into any of the Beatles or
I
have?
did at 1700 Broadway when they were meeting in New York to dissolve Apple.
it was 74.
Ringo and George Harrison were there.
Wow.
And that was the first time I ever saw any of the Beatles. And Ringo came out, and then George had just been right after his accident. So George was walking out and just went up the street. People didn't even know who it was. Ringo a little bit more because he had a limo. But George just walked away and like some guy followed him. We called him Hoboken. He said, I just followed him. I said, did you know you just followed George Harrison? No, because
Mm.
he just walked out and sauntered off.
Did you say hello to him?
Yeah,
Did
we
you
said
say
hello to
hello?
Ringo. George didn't want to be bothered with anybody. We said hello to Ringo. I have pictures from that. I think at that time or at the one before the one-to-one concert, we even got to go up into the Apple offices. And I think that was also at the day May Pang was working for them
He
then.
was. Yeah, I
Yep.
went up there quite a bit,
Yep.
hoping
Hmm.
somebody would walk in, but no one ever walked in. But
Yeah.
got to know May pretty well in those days.
Yeah, she was there that day.
Yeah.
And I think Pete Bennett
She
was as
worked
well.
there. Yeah,
Yeah,
Pete Bennett.
Pete
He
Bennett
was a
was
guest
there.
at the first fest
Hmm.
in 74.
Did May or Pete Bennett, I guess not Alan Klein, did any of them walk into Sam Goody if you were that close?
Mm, I don't remember. I don't think so. They probably did, but I may not have seen them. They may have just gone shopping for records and I went to Pete Bennett, I don't know if I would know who he was from Hole in the Wall. By name, they weren't on TV, they were just names. I knew the name, but
Right.
so until I met him, he was one of the guests at the first Beatlefest.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
got to know him. Klein, I met him a couple times. I met him.
What did you think?
Um, Jovial, maybe. It wasn't in any official meetings that he was, gonna call you, but it was before we knew any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But they found out pretty soon. So I only went to the first show on the afternoon show. I guess working at Sam Goody, I find out things. They were going to have dinner at the Tavern on the Green.
Mm.
So I went up So as soon as the concert was over, I was just by myself, went up to Tavern on the Green and walked in the door. Everybody was in the left, like there was a room on the left. And I looked in, there's a room on the right, one long table for like 10 people. I said, this is where John's going to have dinner. He's not going to sit in there with all those other hundreds of people. I
Right.
just walked in there. No, there's no security, nothing. I sat down and waited. And I don't know how, 10, 15 minutes later, the whole band walked in and John walked in. They all sat down. And I went over and talked to John for a while, for a couple of minutes. And John, I was wearing the shirt that I bought outside because he asked me, the one that went from John to Yoko.
Mm-hmm.
I apparently they were selling, I found that recently they were selling them at the concert itself inside, but I don't remember that because I was young. I didn't think of buying something, but outside I saw someone selling a shirt. I liked it, so I put it on.
Yeah.
And John said, "Oh, I'd like that shirt. Where'd you get it?" I said, "I bought it outside the concert." And he had a Beatles shirt on, a nice shirt. And I said, "You want to trade? You want to switch?" He said, "Sure." At that moment, Geraldo Rivera walks in with a camera crew with the lights on
Uh-huh.
and helter skelter. John, I'm not going to say what he said to Geraldo, but when I finish writing my book, I'm going to put it in word. I'm not going to say it. I never have, but he wasn't. He was very pissed. I mean, he was just Geraldo come in and like wipe the dishes, threw the dishes off the table so his guys can get the cameras close to him.
Oh
It was
man.
like a madman. And John didn't like that at all. But then
You have exchanged shirts with him.
no, I didn't because
Oh, I said you could have.
yeah, we started already. We were starting to change shirts.
Yeah.
And that's when he walked in, that son of a bastard. I could have had a John shirt. That was really John's shirt. That close.
What a disappointment.
Yes.
If you did exchange shirts, you'd probably be wearing it every day.
Yeah. And it'd be worn out by now. It's still wearing it with holes in it and whatever. Oh, yes, this is John's shirt. Yes.
Speaking of Geraldo, did he introduce the acts at all on stage? You remember, was he there?
Yes, he was there and he spoke.
At the beginning, I think.
Yes.
I
He
think he was
did.
on, wasn't he? Did he introduce maybe Stevie Wonder?
He did do some introductions. I remember that. I
I
can't
can't I
remember
can't
entirely.
believe I can't believe that Geraldo with Geraldo's ego that he would not have introduced John and Yoko, but I don't remember that.
He probably did. I don't remember either, but you're right. He would have. And the only one I remember besides John and Yoko was Stevie Wonder. All the other ones, I mean, yeah, I know I was there and I saw them, but it
Hmm.
didn't do anything for me. And Stevie Wonder was a big superstar by then, and paid attention. Who else was there? Remind me.
Roberta Flack.
I don't think Stevie
Huh?
was a super.
Roberta Flack?
Roberta Flack was there.
Roberta Flack, Sha-na-na.
And I don't think Stevie was a superstar yet. Talking Book hadn't even come out.
Yeah, but he had big hits from the 60s.
yeah, but he couldn't sell out Madison Square Garden on
No,
his.
no, 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 he couldn't. But he later on he could. But you're right. That was 4 years before the his big album, 76, I think.
I mean, Innovations
Well,
was 73, right?
no, Intervisions was 74, Talking
Four?
73, I think.
I think Innovision 73, Fulfilling is his first finale 74,
That's right.
Songs in the Key of Life 76.
Right.
That was the one that really exploded for him, for sure.
So,
But he had hits, so it wasn't
oh
like.
sure, sure.
But
But I had seen Stevie earlier. He'd opened for Three Dog Night. Think about that. Stevie Wonder opening for Three Dog Night. With all due respect to Three Dog Night, it's not unlike the Jimi Hendrix opening for the Monkees.
Monkeys.
It's along those lines.
Uh,
But it wasn't until a bit later when Stevie was a real superstar.
yeah, 76. That Songs in the Key of Life. That's
Uh,
exploded.
I think that whole period from Talking Book through he became the megastar. I mean, all those albums went to #1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Songs in the Key of Life was probably the biggest, being a double album and all. But when it comes to merchandise, I mean, you mentioned the tambourine that you had there. Did they were selling small tambourines, right?
They were given
No,
out.
they gave those out
Free.
to the people in the lower seats
What, on the floor
Didn't
only?
on
I
the
have one? I
floor.
had one in
Yeah,
my hands. I got one
yeah.
of them. I
Right.
think I had one in my hand.
Because
And
we were annoyed that,
It,
nobody in the
then it,
upper seats got them. Yep.
then it has to be somewhere in my house that I don't remember if I had it or not. It wasn't,
but that had to have been a Yoko thing because on the tambourine, you remember what it said?
No.
no.
I
The,
couldn't
tam-
see it.
the tambourine said, "You are the Plastic Ono Band."
Right.
Oh, now I got
Clever.
to go look for it.
That was the whole. That was the whole deal.
Ah,
You were part of the band.
We were
very
all
clever.
in the band.
Very clever.
Hmm.
Hey,
All
Ken, I just have, and this is just because two things that I remember from the concert. Number one was I have a friend whose uncle did the lights for the garden. So he was there a lot when John was rehearsing and everything. And his one spin on the thing was John never took off the fatigue outfit. That was the only thing he ever saw him in,
Really?
was the green fatigues. And he said to his niece, "What is the matter with this guy? Doesn't he change his clothes? This is the only thing he wears." And that was like, and the other thing was, I can't remember if it was the afternoon or the evening show when John sang "Come Together." Somebody in my group, of course, yelled "John," and he goes, "Is somebody yelling Paul out there?" So that was his humor. He
Yeah.
he didn't miss a beat.
Now, was it obvious to you, Mary Ellen, having gone to both shows, that
Yeah,
the evening one was so much better, or how did you feel?
I thought that the evening show was really being put on for obviously the media, the famous people that were in the audience. The afternoon, John was sort of like loose and less. He wasn't nervous. It was like he just let it fly, whatever was going to go down. Where I think the evening show to me was like it went on forever because you had all the other acts that were, and there seemed to be more breaks, if my memory is correct, because it didn't get over until very, very late. I think
Third,
John was much more relaxed in the afternoon
yeah.
I mean, John did refer to the afternoon show as a
as
rehearsal.
the rehearsal. That's right. That's right.
I didn't think of it that way in the audience.
Uh-huh.
It was just a pleasure. There he was on stage.
Oh, absolutely. It was a pleasure, but I think they tried to do it more of, I think they knew the media. I think that was probably on the part of Geraldo and ABC tying in with Willowbrook and everything else. This was a big media story for them. For us
Oh
as
yeah,
fans, it was seeing John, and we
right,
just loved seeing John perform.
Yeah.
right.
I got to tell you, watching the video as I did last 2 nights ago
Nights ago.
with Mark at the listening party, I didn't sense that John was nervous.
No, I
No,
didn't
he
either.
wasn't nervous.
He wasn't. You would think he'd be nervous, but maybe when he first came out, but we didn't see it every. They didn't show the whole concert. They showed bits and pieces of it. So maybe he was nervous coming. He probably was nervous coming out.
Yeah.
I'm almost sure of that because that's was his modus operandum. But
Right.
when he got out, they felt relaxed. Oh, I've done this before. I did this hundreds of times with these other three guys. I can do this, you know, and then went right into it. And he was just wonderful. So I was glad I was close enough where I could actually see his expressions. Kids didn't bring binoculars to the shows in those days.
Oh yeah, I had a pair.
You had a pair.
Where,
Well,
yeah,
I
from where
didn't.
I was seeing, neighbor lent me high-powered binoculars, or
Oh,
else he looked like an ant.
Where were you sitting?
I was sitting in the highest level of the garden
oh,
before they
yeah. Then you
renovated
need,
it.
And
And
they didn't
those
have
books,
screens. They never had screens.
no, exactly.
I don't know how I got my I was in 14th row. I must have gone to Bamberger's at Garden State Plaza, which is right next to the, well, 72. Yeah, I was still working in Jersey, so I must have gotten him, and from there,
Yeah.
I can't think of any other place. It was just one ticket, and I got, if it was two, maybe there wouldn't have been two tickets together, except in the where you sat. But it was just one ticket. Boom, 14th
Yeah.
row.
How
The
much
gods
did your ticket
smile down
cost,
on you.
Yeah.
Mark? How much did your ticket cost?
Oh, it must have been. I had to save up for it. It must have been $5, $6,
Yeah. It wasn't
$4.
more
It's
than
the
about
14th row.
$6.
It was $5.
I don't. Yeah,
Yeah, it was that cheap.
I
back
would have
then,
thought
yeah.
tickets were cheap then, but you would have thought on the floor maybe a little bit more. But
The Beatles concert was 450, 350, 450, and 550.
I know this is
So
a
that
little bit later on. I would have thought it would
this
have
right.
been
This was later on, but there's only one Beatles divided by four. But they were. I don't remember the price. Do I have it? Do I have the ticket? I saved a lot of tickets. It's possible I have it somewhere.
Hmm.
I'll go check. Give me 2 days to come back.
All right.
I'll
Joe, do
stop
you
what I'm
remember
doing.
where did you sit, Joe?
Not in on the floor, but probably the first section above,
Yeah.
whatever that's called. I don't know what that's
Balcony.
called. The lower mezzanine or
Yeah.
something. And I got my tickets at the Garden. I slept
Oh,
out.
that day, or you
I
bought
got,
them?
I got, no, when they went on sale, I got to the, those days you'd go to the Garden and you'd get there the day before and you'd spend the
I
night at
don't.
the Garden.
Yeah, I don't remember doing that, but I do remember when George announced his concert. I headed right to the city in the car and parked. I was able to park right in front of the ticket booth and got tickets for all four shows, two shows, and then I saw all four shows. So Long Island, two shows in New York.
Lucky.
And at the December 20th show, the last night of the tour, it was in Manhattan, Madison Square Garden. I found out where the party was going to be afterwards. And it's like 2 or 3 in the morning. It's pretty cold outside. It wasn't like 10 degrees, but it was like 30, 35. And it's about six of us waiting out there. And finally a limo comes along and Billy and Ravi come out. Then the next limo comes down. It's George. And at the same moment, John and May came walking down the street. And when George, they couldn't have planned that. So George got out of the car and John and May were right next to each other. And since I'm in the right spot, I'm saying, okay, let them in, let them go in.
Uh-huh.
Me, stupid enough, John, it's Mark, can I come in? I didn't think of that. I mean, he knew who I was. He helped with the show. He almost showed up at the first fest. And I didn't think of that moment at 3 in the morning that he might let me in. Was like, it didn't occur to me that, I was novice at that stuff.
Mm.
Uh-huh.
But
Still takes guts to do that.
I know, I know. I guess I didn't want to impose, but
Yeah.
there it was. But there were two, John and George, right next to each other. Boom. And I'm I'm not even, I'm about 2 inches from them. It was just that was a thrill right there to see both of them together.
Yeah. Your book's got to come out soon.
I've been working on it for a while, and I want to do it this coming year. This is my goal because I got a lot of wonderful stories
Mm.
that I know everyone's going to love. I mean, I
Hmm.
went in LA, George was suing A&M Records to
Right.
get out of the contract.
I thought A&M was suing him.
Whatever. No, yeah, whatever it was. No, George wanted to get out of the contract. So
Yeah.
they was right. So A&M probably sued him, say you can't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm in the courtroom, just an observer, and they break for lunch, and everybody leaves the building except George stands right outside the door of the courtroom, having a smoke. And I went up, I talked to him for half hour. There's nobody else around. it was really, it was special. And I mentioned the fest. He said, "Oh, I was planning on sending. I have three new promo films that you got to pick them up at the office, and I have this big dark horse, a horse with seven heads. But
Uh-huh.
like it was like 3 or 4 feet. We have photos of it. It's on the site somewhere.
Right.
And he says if you can get someone at the station we're going to bring to go up to the office, you can display it in the art room, which we did. One of
Right.
my friends had it, and I was up in the office, so I must have met Olivia, not Olivia. Yeah, yeah, Olivia, um, because she was a secretary. So
Right.
it wasn't a big office. It's a pretty small office. And what else did he send down? He didn't send any autographs, but he did a couple of years later. Um, but the Romanian Angel Appeal, we did a
Yep.
benefit
Mhm.
with Olivia's sister and who else's sister? Barbara's sister, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And George and Ringo signed a whole bunch of stuff for us. It was really nice, but they didn't show up. But
Uh,
that talk was such a nice talk with I mean, usually it's a hello to, a minute or 2 minutes.
right.
We're just standing there talking about, I wish I could have, I should have written everything down, but I didn't. But I'll remember things when I start writing about that.
You should always have a tape recorder on you, a little portable one.
In 1976, those were this big.
Ellen
You know, they
Posen
were
would have
rolling
found
sack. You have to plug it in. No, they don't know. You don't. You probably know what a rolling sack is, but you didn't have tape recorders. You didn't, this is a tape recorder. This is a tape recorder, and you could
it.
film anything you want at any time. And it's this big. The rolling sack was like 15 pounds, and you had to put. Never mind. You know about all this
I,
stuff.
I remember all that, but
Yeah.
they had cassette recorders then.
In 76,
Yeah.
Yeah.
76,
You could have found a little portable one.
I had a little port. No, no, I didn't have one in 76.
Okay.
I have to look that up. You sure 76 there was a
I would
I
think
thought
so.
it's more like early 80s maybe? Joe, where do you come in on this?
There's Wallen sacks for sure.
Right, we know that.
No one's going to walk around with a Wallen sack.
Right,
Um, there were 8 tracks, but you couldn't record on them.
Nope.
right.
I think there were cassettes, but don't quote me.
Well, one of us will look it up and send this to or the rest of us. Ken, that's your job. You're the host. So you let
All
us know
right, I'll
when
find out.
the cassettes, but I didn't have one of those either. We didn't even have a phone. Nobody had, George wasn't
I
on his
know that.
phone talking. No cell phones in 76.
Nope.
No, not even close.
Payphones.
Yep.
Payphones.
Payphones.
Those were the dinosaur days, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
So why don't we wrap things up by well, in the case of the fest, anything you can tell us? It's usually the last weekend of March.
Yes, we're finalizing things and we'll announce it we'll announce when we announce. Should be soon.
Okay. I'll be sure to spread the word. And Joe, your concert, which is at Town Hall on December the 12th for the Lennon Tribute Show.
Yeah,
Uh,
great lineup. Congratulations, Joe.
Thanks.
I'll see you there if you
Yeah,
invite me.
sure. This is the 45th annual John Lennon
Yeah.
tribute.
Yep.
Yep.
Great
With,
I
job.
was at the first one, Joe.
all right, cool. Um,
Awesome show.
with honoree Judy Collins and Graham Nash is
Graham
returning
Nash
with
back.
us,
Wow.
and Jimmy Webb, Livingston Taylor, Suzanne Vega, an artist or two I can't announce yet, Yola, Willie Nile.
So this is your best lineup ever.
I don't know. We had Jackson Brown, Cyndi Lauper, Taj Mahal, and Patti Smith at the 30th.
Yeah,
So,
but I think this is bigger. I think these are better names. Not
all
that John
right.
Brown isn't great, but yes, but
Yeah,
the other ones, I think this one, you
it's a
outdid
good
me.
one. It's a good one. So,
Yep.
yeah, 45 years. It's a milestone.
Yeah.
and
Yes. Congratulations.
all the
Thanks.
money, you should tell everybody, all the money goes to
Oh, this
charities.
is a charity event. It's produced by the organization I run called Theater Within, and Theater Within is the not-for-profit not only behind the tribute for 45 years, but behind a program called the John Lennon Real Love Project, which is a songwriting program for the cancer community. In fact, we did a concert last night of Lennon songs just for the cancer community here in New York. And we also do a public school version of that, where the kids get to write original lyrics to Real Love, and they get to record their own version of the song with John's original piano track and vocal. He sings the chorus with them. This is all made possible because of Yoko and Sean. So it's a great charity, and all the money raised goes to support that and other programs for the cancer community.
That's just fantastic.
Awesome.
Congratulations, Joe. You do a wonderful job.
If you go to
Good
the
job.
website, which is lennontribute.org, there's actually something really nice that Sean just submitted a comment about your tribute shows, which was
We
really
are we're very fortunate. Sean provided us with a beautiful statement of support, and he signed 25 Mind Games box sets for us,
Wow.
available um, starting for $2,500. You get tickets and an invite to the reception, and this this box set signed by Sean, who doesn't do a lot of that, but he did
No.
that. He did that for us.
Wonderful.
So again, just very fortunate to have the support of Yoko and Sean for this event, which is a unique New York event, and is the only thing like it, I think, in the world. It's the only John Lennon tribute concert in the world that I know of. So we're very lucky.
and you
Yeah.
deserve so much credit for putting this on for so long.
Yeah.
You
You're,
know?
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
only,
as
you're only 6 years behind me.
Mark and I have joked about it.
Right.
Mark is. Although I don't know if I'll be doing it as long as Mark. I think that if I get to 50, that I could see myself at 50 saying, I've done 50 John Lennon tributes. Let someone else do the
And
50.
the Adelphi Fest, right?
Adelphi, Mark and I have that in common. We both went to the same university, Adelphi, and actually that's how I met Mark. I reached
Yeah.
out to him, and we actually produced together a fest, and it was the first Long Island Fest in 1977.
77.
77, and
And
and Mark and I have been friends ever since.
yeah. And that was there were 1,000 people showed up. It was a big
Pro-
deal.
Probably
Yeah. Oh, it was crowded.
over the
And
weekend. So,
it was the weekend that the week that Mull of Kintyre was released.
oh,
I was talking with the band. It was the band Abbey Road. It was the band I had for a couple of years.
Right.
I remember
Brothers.
them.
And
I remember them.
Keith
Anyway,
Song.
Mark's been at this so longer than me, but Mark and I have got this. I'm going to say somewhat of a unique bond,
Yep.
having been so entrenched and dedicated and insane enough to
To keep
do
doing it. Yeah.
something like what we do.
Yeah.
And it can only be a labor of love. It can only be fueled
I mean,
by love.
how many other places we both work closely with Yoko? There are very few people that he does that with. And you've since the 40s, over 40 years ago, 45 years ago.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, I
back
mean,
when John was around, he contributed every show. Contributed, through the first show in 80. He contributed charity items, signed.
It's all been a labor of love for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
My radio show started in 1982,
wow,
Wow.
just behind you there, Joe.
right.
43.
Youngster, you.
Yeah. All right. So, Mary Ellen, anything you want to say to close with? If people want to get in touch with you, maybe through Facebook or whatever.
Send me a Facebook request. I'm on Facebook. And it's been a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen. Uh, I've been with you for a lot of years. So I was at the first fest and was
Wow.
at the first concert for the tribute for John. And of course, Ken, you and I go way back.
That's true. All right, Mary Ellen, Joe, and Mark, thank you so much for doing
Peace
this.
and love. Peace and love.
And
Pleasure.
And
Take
don't
care.
Spreading the love.
the box set comes out tomorrow.
Yes, we have them in stock already. They've already been mailed out.
Yep. Waiting for mine to come in the mail.
All right.
You
Should
know,
be.
I was saying at the beginning of the show here that it's not always easy to coordinate people's schedules to do these things. But lo and behold, when do we end up doing this? On John's birthday. So
Happy
happy
birthday, John.
birthday, John.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday,
Sean.
Sean. Yep.
And it
Happy
was my father's
anniversary.
birthday. It was my father's birthday also.
That's right.
And every year he used to say, really? Then about 5 years later, like late 60s, he started remembering, oh, yeah, that's right. But the first 3 years, really? Really? Hmm.
It's also Paul and Nancy's anniversary.
That's correct. Right,
Wow. I
Ken.
forgot about that.
I wonder
Happy
why he
anniversary.
made it on October 9th.
Yeah, it was a special day.
Well,
Special
he did it so he'd remember it.
day. Why not?
Hey,
It's a good
don't
enough reason.
Yeah, Todd Rundgren, his birthday is June the 22nd. He made sure he was married on June 22nd so he wouldn't forget the date. So it's possible. That's why Paul did it.
Did he get divorced on June 22nd
Oh,
also?
he's still married to the
Oh,
same.
that's great. Wow.
Yeah.
Good for him. Okay, well,
All right,
good
guys.
night,
Thanks
everybody.
for doing
Thanks,
this.
Ken.
Thanks to everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.